All right, welcome to the regular meeting of the Town Council, Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. We just got out of executive session, so I appreciate everyone's patience. With that, Margo, take it away.
Okay, for the benefit of the public, I will take a second roll call. Councilwoman Cotton.
Let's go back.
Present.
Yep, Council.
Yeah, okay.
Present.
Oh, thank you. Councilman Foster, we expect shortly. Councilman Iannacone.
Present.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Here.
Councilman Silva.
Present.
Councilman Umbriak.
Here.
Council President Armington.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Great. All right, we will move into a moment of silence. Followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Okay, before we get started, please be aware that public comment during the public hearing portions of this meeting will be moderated through the Zoom app. At the appropriate time, members of the public wishing to speak should indicate so by raising his or her hand in the app. You will find the raise your hand icon at the bottom left side of your screen. You may also raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. When it is your turn, the moderator will send a signal through the app and ask that you unmute yourself so that you may be heard. To unmute yourself on the phone, press *6. I'd like to note that Councilwoman Foster has joined us. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Unless a member of council would like to consider them separately, I would ask a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilwoman Cotton?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Yes.
Councilman Silva?
Yes.
Councilman Umbriak?
Yes.
Council President Armington?
Yes.
Motion carries. At this time, I'll open the floor for a public hearing on, I'm sorry, actually, before we go into the public hearing, Joanne Bjornson, are you with us? I believe you wanted to say a few words. If you could please raise your hand.
Hello?
Yes, you're with us.
I did raise my hand. Not sure if you can see me.
I
We
can't
can
see
hear you.
But we can hear you.
Okay, are you ready for me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm usually here every January presenting our applications. I'm Joanne Bjornson, CEO of Family Promise of Morris County. I live in the 2nd Ward and I also work in Morristown. Thank you so much for hearing the presentation tonight. We are applying for our 2022 renewal for the Community Development Block Grant, requesting $50,000 for outreach programs. We are also applying for $35,000 for the Emergency Solutions Grant, requesting $35,000 for our shelter program. Both programs are currently in operation. Family Promise has served our community since 1986, and I have been with the agency for 17 years. When I first began, we had 3 staff, a budget of $200,000, and served 50 people. Today, we have 20 staff and interns. Our budget is over $2.5 million, and we serve over 2,500 people a year. We also rely on 1,600 Morris County volunteers who help support our $1 million in-kind budget, of which 93% goes to our programs. Our continual programs and services provide shelter, housing, and outreach to Morris County residents, including those that are homeless or in need of safe, affordable housing. These programs provide substantial individual and community benefits, including housing as healthcare. How can you treat, manage, or prevent illness or maintain wellness if you are unsheltered? COVID risk reduction is also important and key. By moving households who are unsheltered or living in cramped shared housing to safe, stable housing. How can you shelter in place if you are living outside? How can you wash your hands with no access to a restroom? How can you social distance if you are moving from place to place and encountering different non-related individuals nightly? We also support the county and the town's Code Blue efforts. Our shelter program provides safe temporary housing for families and single adults while they're experiencing homelessness. Our housing programs provide rental assistance, eviction prevention, which saves landlords tons of funds and also tenants from having an eviction on their record. We also provide substantial landlord incentives, including 1 month to 2 months bonus sign-on. We have property repairs that can be done for the CO or general beautification that comes from volunteers or our partners, Habitat for Humanity. We have a mitigation fund for landlords to cover any damage, gap rent if the apartment is vacant while repairs are being made or while we're looking for another tenant, and 24/7 on-call support to both landlords and tenants. Our outreach programs include Our Promise, a walk-in resource center at the First Baptist Church in Morristown, providing concrete services meeting basic needs, including warming and cooling centers, restrooms, computers, toiletry and hygiene items, and PPE, giving out over 5,000 masks and hundreds of hand sanitizers. Most importantly, we serve as an access point and clearinghouse for resources, services, and housing for anyone in the community. Outreach programs also partner with the Sheriff's Hope One van and Morris County on the Navigating Hope van, basically social services on wheels. So any social service that someone needs, whether they're applying for TANF or SNAP or other benefits, including support with their parents or other family members that maybe are not mainstream services, even if they can afford these services, we can help connect. We also go to lots of local events like schools, parks, senior centers, houses of worship, or Morris County First Night. We've been to the events on the green multiple times. So if you ever need us, or if you want us to come to your child's school, if you want us to come to a community event or something in your town, please let us know. We're always available. Partnerships with the community are key, and our partners include corporations headquartered in Morristown and Morris County, civic and community groups like Rotary and faith groups, elected officials, CCM, first responders, Morris County Police Departments, Morristown Fire Chief Flanagan, Morristown Mayor Tim Doherty, Sheriff Gannon, and dozens of nonprofit partners and the Board of Commissioners. These funds are critical and allow us to maintain the needs in our community in a way that promotes dignity and respect. As we increase the scope of these programs and numbers served, funds from these 2 renewal grants allow us to meet the new needs of varied populations, including those who are newly unemployed, underemployed, or who are experiencing increases or first-time episodes of domestic violence, child assaults, and opioid overdoses. We learned a lot in 2020 and 2021 and are more committed than ever. I want to thank you for your support in helping us make this work possible. And if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms.
Bjornson. Thank you.
Georgeson?
Okay,
Nope.
with that, I will open up the floor for a public hearing on the Family Promise of Morris County fiscal year 2022 ESG application for homelessness prevention for housing stabilization program renewal.
Council President, I don't see any hands raised for public comment.
We'll close that public hearing, and I expect we have another public hearing for the other program.
Yes, sir. I will now open the floor for a public hearing on Family Promise of Morris County fiscal year 2022 CDBG application for community outreach programs.
I do see one hand raised. Khalif, if you'll unmute yourself and state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Andre Khalif. I'm a Manahan Village resident. Yes, that's pretty much Manahan Village resident.
Go ahead, Ms. Khalif.
All right. So first, I'd like to say good evening. Thank
I'm sorry. Can you please state your street address, please?
my street address 801 Flagler Street.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
I'm
Khalif.
sorry. All right. So I wanted to come here tonight to present. My goal is to remove the barricade between.
Mr. Khalif, this public hearing is on the Family Promise CDBG grant application only.
Okay.
We will have coming up is another public hearing on any other matter, and you can certainly raise your hand and speak then.
Oh, I'm sorry then. I'm sorry.
That's
My
okay.
apologies.
That's okay.
I didn't know if it was. No. All right. Thank you.
Okay, just raise your hand again when we get to that next section.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Bjornson has her hand raised. If you
Okay.
unmute yourself, Ms. Bjornson.
Hi, I just did. Thank you so much. My presentation was for both grants.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands raised for public comment on this topic.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing for the CDBG grant.
Excellent. And now I'll open the floor for a public hearing on any matter. Again, if you've joined the meeting via Zoom, please raise your hand in the app to indicate that you would like to speak. If you've joined the meeting via telephone, press *9. Kindly state your name and address and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Be advised that any derogatory comments targeting members of council and/or administration may be ruled out of order. No comments were received via email.
Okay, the first speaker is Mr. Khalif. If you'll unmute yourself and restate your name and address to the record.
All right. I'm Andre Khalif. My address is 80801 Flagler Street, Morristown, New Jersey. I am a Manahan Village resident.
Take it away, Mr. Khalif.
All right. So I'm here tonight because I wanted to discuss the barricade on Clyde Potts Drive in Manahan Village. The last few weeks, myself and a couple of the librarians at the Morristown Library, who are absolutely wonderful at the Morristown Library, we were able to uncover a lot of the newspaper articles from when that barrier was created back in 1985. From the article I have, it says Clyde Potts Drive and Bell Place will be closed to through traffic for 90-day trial period starting tomorrow. That barricade is still there currently in this 2022. The purpose of that barricade was said because over 400 commuters were doing traffic, I guess rush hour, were going down Orchard and cutting through Clyde Potts to come out on Flagler and MLK. So they were cutting through traffic. And the barricade was put there, they said, to cut down the traffic. But what I'm opposing is that we remove the barricade, make that a one-way exit for Clyde Potts. That way, it is actually the residents at Clyde Potts and Manahan Village have two-way exit out, which brings me to, I wanted to have this discussion at the safety meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, but I wasn't able to. I actually was able to talk to Nick Prezi at the Morristown Fire Department and just discuss with him the difficulties of answering any fire calls down in Manahan. With there only being one exit in, one way in, and one way out, he talks about the difficulties of fire trucks, and I would assume any other emergency vehicle being able to get down and maneuver down there. So my presenting this is, I just would like to, what is the next move in, possibly removing this barricade, opening up Manahan? Because I know this summer, I don't know if a lot of you guys went to the Throwdown in Motown down at Caldwell Playground, but it had the possibility and the makings to be one of the greatest and biggest events in Manahan in years. And I think for us to take it to the next level this year, we need Manahan to be open up. We need to remove that barricade. That way we're able to have two exits and people in that community won't feel so closed in. And that's, I have paperwork documents. Like I said, I've been at the Morristown Library the last couple of weeks. They helped me transform things into PDF. So I will happily send you maps, old maps, new maps, newspaper articles. They're all in PDFs. I can send to any of you guys on the council. Just thank you for hearing me, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this ball rolling.
Thank you, Mr. Khalif. So the way this works is once the anyone who wants to speak at the public hearing is once all the public speakers are done, we close the public hearing and then we open it up to council members and administration to respond to public hearing comments. And so we'll be addressing your comment at that point. So,
Sounds
thank
good.
you very
Thank
much
you.
for your comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khalif. Council President, I don't see any other hands raised for public comment.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I guess the only thing I'd ask is if we could direct the engineer to take a look and see if that's a possibility, and you know, I think that and you know, verify or validate you know, the need for a second exit. You know, multiple exits are always important. And so if we could get the administration to look into it,
Certainly.
that'd be great. And Mr. Khalif, if you can send whatever information you have to the clerk, she'll get it to the administration for their review.
Thank you.
And to us,
And for us, yes.
and for us.
Yes,
Of course.
I think that's so assuming there's no other responses.
You may want to also suggest that, you know, that Clyde Potts goes right through Manahan Village, right through the center. So you may want to just also bring it to the board or to the community association to get their input.
Right.
Yeah.
I think what I'd like to start with is an engineering analysis about the safety and circulation. I know we looked at that specific issue a few years back, so there may already have been work done. But I'll touch base with Anthony and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I wouldn't really bring it up unless it's a viable option.
Okay.
So,
Exactly.
all right, moving
I
on.
just want to make a comment before we move on. I just want
Sure.
to thank Mr. Khalif for calling in and bringing his concern forward. And I have heard, you know, the residents who live in the down on Clyde Potts, further in where it's the court area, have concerns about not being able to get out of that area. So I'm happy that he brought that to our attention, and we're going to have an engineer look into this and see where we can proceed from there. But I just want to thank him for calling in and thank him for the information he's about to send to us.
I think it's one. Anything else from council? Nope. Okay. We will move on to report of mayor and town officials.
So I do have a report on behalf of the mayor who is unable to attend tonight. But in the interest of time, I do want to start with a presentation from Matt Seckler, who is the engineer for the M Station project. There was a press release that was circulated recently about the initiation of the construction of the roundabout at Morris and Spring Street. So Matt is here to give a little bit of an overview of the project and the construction schedule that can be anticipated over the next several months. So Matt, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, council members. Glad to be here. I'm Matt Seckler from Stonefield Engineering. Did provide a lot of testimony and design related to this roundabout at the intersection of Morris and Spring Street. So just want to bring everyone up to speed with our construction timeline and schedule and answer any questions generally related to that. I would like to share my screen if possible.
Go ahead.
Perfect. What you see here is the proposed roundabout that is looking to break ground next week. I believe the flashing board signs have indicated it's coming February 1st or the week of February 1st. What you see here is the final condition of the roundabout. Just to orientate everybody, Morris Street is the street that's on the right-hand side that then curves left, and that's going towards the green. Spring Street is in the top left corner, and Wilmont, or the location of the Dunkin' Donuts, would be kind of the bottom right. Proposed M Station development is the proposed nice rendered building that you see in the top right corner. What you see here is the roundabout in its design, and again, there's been a number of public hearings and discussions about this roundabout. There'll be more forthcoming messages as we get closer to the roundabout opening, informing the public how to drive around the roundabout, all the different features of the roundabout. Just want to briefly go through them here, but there's been hours and hours of discussions that I don't want to necessarily rehash unless there's some specific questions. But again, with the roundabout, you yield as you enter the roundabout. So the cars in the center have the right of way. That's a little different than what people think of the 1940s, 50s Jersey circles, where the right of way is sometimes for the cars on the inside, sometimes for the cars on the outside. That's not the case with the roundabout. You always yield on your incoming movement. Just to briefly highlight the pedestrian and bike features of the roundabout, each one of the legs of the roundabout has a pedestrian crossing. There are two crossings, which will be the Hawk signals. Those are the ones across Morris on the eastern side and across Wilmont near the Dunkin' Donuts. The other two crossings have what is called a pedestrian rapid flashing beacon. Those are also pedestrian activated signals to alert drivers to stop because a pedestrian will be crossing. You'll see the enhanced pedestrianscape along the M Station property and also along the corner of what used to be the Fatty's building. That'll kind of connect two of the corners along with the Wilmont Street, Morris Street connection as well. In terms of bikes, and we'll discuss this in a couple seconds, bikes around roundabouts, we do provide what is called bike ramps, which allows for bikes to enter the sidewalk in which the bicyclist will be required to dismount and walk around the outside of the roundabout. Or if the biker is comfortable, they could bike within the roundabout itself. But we do provide these bike ramps both on and off in the direction of travel along all the legs of the roundabout. So again, that's the pedestrian features of the roundabout. Again, there's been a lot of studies on roundabouts. In fact, I think the New York Times published something a few months ago because my parents cut it out of the newspaper and sent it to me. In terms of the enhanced safety that a roundabout has over a standard traffic signal, in terms of the pedestrian amenities that roundabouts have, it allows for easier crossing than other standard intersections, and how it functions not only as a traffic calming device to reduce speeds during off-peak times, but is also more efficient in terms of processing traffic than a typical traffic signal, because you have cars moving I would say steadily and slowly through the roundabout instead of having a stop and go, accelerate and stop type of operation that you have with your normal standard traffic lights. This is a illustration. This is the Morris Street crossing. Kind of the bottom of the page would be kind of in front of the Dunkin' Donuts, walking across towards to where the M Station project would be on the eastern crossing of the roundabout, just to give a little visualization. And then this is, again, the bike features where as you're oncoming, you can see these red warning surfaces in advance of the roundabout, where you would have the ability to dismount and take the ramp on the sidewalk, or utilize the roadway to go around the roundabout itself in terms of the built condition. However, at this point, we're looking to begin our construction, and when we're designing the construction plan, we've been working carefully with township and county staff. Town and county staff to make sure that we followed proper procedures in designing how this would be constructed. We are looking to engage in public outreach, which I think were the initial public relations releases, as well as the VMS boards, and I believe that we'll continue and inform the public as we reach various stages of the construction. Again, they include the variable message boards, which you see as you're arriving to the roundabout in all the different directions, which will alert drivers to the various changing in traffic patterns. In terms of how we anticipate to construct the roundabout, I have some more detailed slides. But any type of lane closures would be off-peak lane closures, either from 9 to 3 or 9 to 4, depending on the extent of the work and the roadway we're working on. Along Morristown roadways, we are limited to 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. On the county roadways, we're limited to 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But in terms of these type of closures, they're typically shifting or one-lane closures during, again, these off-peak time periods. There's also work that'll occur outside of the travel lane, so they will be not affecting the travel patterns on the road, things that will be done behind the curb line, in which we will have pedestrian detours and alternate pedestrian paths. And again, I'll explain those later on. But again, those will be a series of off-peak lane closures and work outside of the typical travel lanes. We will have limited overnight detours. The intention of the project is to have the majority of the construction be able to be done during these off-peak time periods. However, there is some construction that would need to occur that would require the closing of more than one lane of traffic or the need to divert traffic just to keep the volumes at a lower level. And those would be limited overnight detours, in which we've already met with the police to basically ensure that we have a proper notification of the police so they could help and assist with the detours that are overnight. And we've also agreed that we'd be working with the police to make sure that any events that occur within the town, such as an event at the Mayo, we would not be running any overnight detours during those time periods. We have a strategic staging plan. We've developed pedestrian detours, and we do anticipate working with the police to ensure that the work staging is done properly and efficiently. Just to quickly go through the sequence of work, the first thing we're looking at doing, and again, I have some visuals that I'll show in a second, is at the relocated Spring Place and Spring Street, we are proposing a new signal. That'll be installed as part of the first phase, and that'll be constructed with work that'll be outside of the peak hours. Then for a few days, we'll be working overnight to remove the islands from Morris Street and Spring Street. You'll notice there's some divider islands in the middle today. We'll be removing them to allow for easier lane shifting. That those islands take up pavement that could help us shift traffic to ensure that we could maintain the proper number of lanes during the various later stages of construction. Then we will construct the exterior pavement sections of the roundabout. This is basically the work where the 7-Eleven formerly was in operation and where the Fatties was in operation. This is outside of the travel lanes that allows us to create the outer edges of the roundabout. Then we will construct the interior section of the roundabout, which would require some overnight closures. And then the final stage is the creation of the final islands on the approaches and the final paving and striping, which would be a mix of non-peak work, non-peak hour construction, and overnight construction. Again, your final pave that you're bringing through, the final stripe, you'll likely do that overnight while the road is closed. So you get a nice, clean, consistent pave in this area. Just briefly going through again those stages in kind of visual form. First thing we will be doing is, again, constructing the new signal at Spring Place and Spring Street. We have all the equipment. We're ready to go. This is what we're starting with next week, looking to complete this task in about 25 to 30 work days. Hopefully the weather is cooperative, so that could be in 6 consistent weeks. But obviously, if we have some snow, that may be anywhere between, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks to get that signal up and running. In yellow, what we're showing is that when we work on this signal, we'll be working on one side, either the eastern side or the western side, and there'll be a pedestrian detour depending on what we are working on. But this will be all done during the day, during those off-peak time periods of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. With police help. We would have at maximum one lane closed in either direction or one direction at a time, working through this first stage. The second group would be removing those 3 islands that exist currently in the center of the Morris and Spring intersection. This will be done overnight to basically allow for the safest work zone operation. This should take no more than a couple days at night. And then what we are removing is this triangular island, again, kind of in front of the old 7-Eleven, which we will have a new pedestrian detour path that'll allow for that crossing by going up to our new signal that'll be up at Spring Place and Spring Street. That's why we're installing that signal first, is so that we have an alternative as we need to eliminate the crossing that goes across Spring Street. Then again, the stage will be constructing the areas of pavement outside of the current roadway. This will be done during the off-peak hours. There'll be very, very limited lane closures during this time period. It would likely be maybe some lane shifts just to give the workers a little room when they're doing some removal of curb or sidewalk. But again, really should have no impact on the travel pattern. We're in this stage where we're kind of outside of the roadway traffic. We would have, again, the pedestrian detour up at the new Spring Place intersection, and we would anticipate to have a pedestrian access behind the work zone because this area will be clear with no 7-Eleven on site. So we'll actually have pedestrians behind the work zone. The next stage is the interior of the roundabout. Again, that's the center of the roundabout. During this stage, we would require this work to be done likely at time periods when we have overnight detours because at this point, the traffic signal will start to be dismantled and the roundabout will begin to be constructed. So there will be overnight detours during this stage. And then just to illustrate what those detours would be, and this is working with the police, the primary detour route would be coming down to South Street via Pine, and then basically turning towards the Green with a backup detour, which would be basically continuing on Spring and taking Water, because the movement that we would need to be detoured is actually the left turn from Morris to continue onto Morris to head to the Green. So that is the detour travel pattern that we would expect to have overnight when we're constructing the center of the roundabout during that period. Overall, we're aiming to be completed by November 1st. Again, it's obviously somewhat weather permitting, but I think by that November 1st, the roundabout may be even in operation before November 1st, but there may be some cleanup of other items, that we may be substantially complete and in operation with the roundabout, but still, cleaning up some odds and ends at the site. But again, that's our target, is to hit November 1st. Hopefully the winter stays the way it is. In terms of our winter work, before any storm, we have agreed to put basically a fully compacted, I think it's at least a 4-inch pavement section down to ensure that there's, that snow plows and things like that could clear the area where our work zone is at the end of every single day that we're working. We obviously will not be out there during any type of substantial storm. The workers, it's their safety as well. So, really anything more than a dusting, work is over for the day, and they'll come back the following day when the snow is clear. So again, that's kind of a rundown where we are at the roundabout. I believe that we'll continue to provide some periodic updates as we kind of reach the various stages. But the first thing you'll see coming is the traffic signal at Spring Place and Spring Street.
Thank you, Mr. Steckler. Just for the benefit of the council, Mr. Steckler presented at depth all these concepts at the planning board, and so we appreciate him coming back. I just have one question. Currently for the duration of the construction of the first building, the pedestrian sidewalk along that side of Morris Street has been closed. I assume because you're providing that pedestrian detour that sidewalk will be open?
That sidewalk should be open shortly. The completion of the roadwork in that area is, I believe, almost done in terms of they'll be able to move the fence back and have that, there's a pedestrian, expansive pedestrian sidewalk in that area. So that should be in operation by the time that we reach the stages where we need that pedestrian detour route.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Steckler, can you pop up that first picture again with the roundabout and the cars on there?
Certainly.
Is that possible? Thank you.
This one?
Yeah. Is that to scale? Meaning, are the cars, like if you look from the Morris Street crosswalk to the Spring Street crosswalk, could you fit possibly 8 cars queued up in there?
The cars are generally to scale. Again, I can't say they fit every single SUV style, but yes, this is generally the size of a car. And what area were you questioning?
I was going from the Morris Street on the M Station side to Spring Street on the M Station side.
You're basically saying like how many cars could fit from here to here?
Yeah, say there was a traffic jam, people crossing of both crosswalks at the same time, and traffic was stopped. How many, you think like 8 cars could queue in there?
Yeah, I would say about 8 cars could queue in there, yes.
Okay. I'm just I have so many questions, but I won't ask them. But I'm just asking that because, sorry. I'm just asking that because there's posts on social media and people don't realize how big this area is going to be. I think they assume that the roundabout is going to be in the exact spot of the triangular, median that you're removing. So I just want people to see that, who's ever on this meeting, that there's quite a number of cars that can queue up on the roundabout if people are crossing. It's not going to be 1 or 2
Yeah.
as it was now.
Yeah, and again, this is definitely not technical, but the actual signal intersection is probably more along the size of the like kind of center of the roundabout. People don't realize how much space, getting rid of the 7-Eleven, getting rid of Fatties, and basically expanding that circle. It's, again, traffic circles are a desired signal control measure. The reason why they're difficult to construct is usually right of way. It's very unusual to be able to take in a built up area, down buildings to create a roundabout to replace a traffic signal. Luckily, we have the ability to do so here, but it is significantly larger than this intersection that you're experiencing now.
Okay. Do you anticipate any problems because it's not flat ground? So you're entering in the roundabout from cresting a slope or a hill.
Yeah. So the way that we've graded
traffic or not?
So the way that we've graded it is that, and your reviewing board traffic engineer was very extensive. We checked, sight lines and stopping abilities for every vehicle. So we had to check the sight line for every single crosswalk, every single vehicle maneuver. As you approach the roundabout, as you approach the crosswalk, can you see the pedestrian? Can you see the sign? So yeah, we've essentially flattened the roundabout or flattened the intersection and basically slowly graded into the adjoining streets. But yes, that has all been reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
Just, go ahead, Bob.
Stefan, just maybe a question for Commissioner Corcoran or Jillian, but the cost of the police associated with the detours and the monitoring of the detour, I assume is the responsibility of funding from the developer?
Yes, the developer funds through escrow the engineers that are going to be overseeing the construction. And then any kind of police is hired as an outside duty detail by the developer as well.
And one concern that I also heard was the sufficiency of police monitoring of the detour and the traffic when there's a detour in process because of construction. Who's the one who judges the activity and the management of that detour? Concern is here, of course, is that we have a lot of travelers through town or people coming to town even late in the evening, early in the morning. So the concern is actually the sufficiency of the monitoring of the detour itself, and that it's actively managed, not passively managed.
Yes, actually, we had a number of pre-construction meetings going through in detail the construction schedule and the staging and the detour planning, and the police department was involved in each one of those meetings specifically for that concern, to make sure that, and our traffic engineers were also involved to make sure that we consider the safety and the management and the operational impact of these detours in addition to, the specific engineering. So the police department makes the determination of, how many officers need to be hired, where they're staged. They approved all of the detour sort of lane placements. We worked out the overnight detail or the overnight detour plans, to make sure that they believe that it's safe, knowing what we know about how traffic works in Morristown. So that is not left off to the developer. That was determined by the police department.
Thank you, Jillian.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Actually, I have two questions. One is since this construction will start first week of February to November, what will be the effect on traffic on peak hours in the different stages of the construction of the roundabout? That's the first one.
Yep. So Jillian, you can answer that.
If I can just jump in that. One of the biggest points that I made in having them organize this construction is that it cannot impact peak travel time, which is why they're not allowed to work beyond the 9 to 3 or 9 to 4 hours. And that the work that's being done during the daytime will not impede traffic flow, either up and down Spring Street or across Morris Street. So any work that's being done during the daytime, one, will be done during off-peak hours, and two, will allow free flow in both directions of Morris Street, and that Spring Street will have adequate access during the daytime hours. Anything that requires any significant impact on traffic flow would have to be done overnight, which is what Matt sort of outlined. But they really spent a lot of time figuring out a way to construct this that really minimizes that disruption as much as possible.
Is that going to close down parking spaces on Morris Street? Put them out of commission while to detour lanes?
We don't, again, nothing, the construction should not impact any of the parking spaces on Morris Street. Any of the lane reductions or shifting is done in the area of the signal where there's no parking, really right on the signal itself, or on Spring where there's no parking.
Okay, thank you.
My second question is, as we see, the roundabout has a lot of elements like the biking, the platform, the ramp, the dismounting. I think that the usage of the roundabout will need a lot of education for the public. So what are the plans to educate people on the usage of every single feature of the roundabout, and who is in charge of that?
So there's actually, and I'll punt it to you, Matt, in a second, but there's actually a specific requirement from the planning board as well as from the redevelopment plan that the developer do an extensive public education program close to the roundabout construction for that very same reason. We don't want to do it now because we're, 7-8 months away from this thing being operational. But once we get closer to the intersection being operational, there should be an extensive education program. And I'll punt to Matt if you want to add anything.
Exactly. And again, the one good thing is that there's a lot of information that is readily available, because that's a common question that comes up. So if you even search YouTube, it's a whole bunch of educational videos on how to cross a roundabout. You need to press a button, you wait for the walk signal, things like that. So we are working with our client, and obviously we'll be working with all of the town staff in having an education process, whether it's videos online, whether it's posting at the site, whether it's an education program physically at the roundabout before it opens, to basically, hey, everyone wants to see how this works, let's walk you through walking across the street. We also, again, the Seeing Eyes in town, they'll be involved as well. They were very much involved with the design of the roundabout and making sure that this worked from their perspective as well. So we will be engaging with all of those parties.
And we'll ensure that they're multilingual too, Councilman.
Yes, thank you. That was my last remark.
Are there going to be any street signs posted anywhere? Like, I know in Australia and New Zealand, they have street signs that give the way which lane goes where and which lane exits. But it's open space. It's not like Morristown where a giant street sign is going to be very obtrusive it's going to be obtrusive, but it's also there's not a great place to put them.
Yeah. So there are some small lane advance signs, kind of if you're coming down Spring Street now, how there's like little signs above the lane that say like right only, kind of like that, but a little more legible, will be over the lanes to let you know this is the way this one's to Morris Street, this lane gets you to Spring Street, things like that as part of the design plan. Okay, and honestly, you could also do other techniques as well on pavement, but that was not part of the original design. The design has those kind of small, again, lane control signs.
One last question with reference to the detour again. The north end of Pine Street tends to be very residential, multifamily residential. What about truck traffic on Pine? Is it going to be discouraged? That is a very narrow road, and quite often you do have trailers coming up Morris that time of night. Thoughts about that?
Again, I guess we could work with, Sergeant O'Brien was the one that we worked with regarding that route. Again, I guess we could work with him. The intention was to have, police stationed at the intersection of Pine and Lafayette. It's perhaps that, they could work with whoever's stationed there to ensure that any of the larger tractor trailers that they come at that night have an alternate means.
But you may want to look at that ahead of time, because once you get to that point,
Yep.
even making that left-hand turn's not easy.
Yep.
For a truck.
Yep.
Well,
So I'll-
actually, Bob, the ideal thing is to direct people for trucks to come off of 287, go on to South Street and go down South Street instead of going on to Morris. and
Yeah,
getting
that's
stuck in that
what I
traffic.
mean, yeah, yeah.
That's,
I mean,
that's,
I think we have to think that far out because truck traffic, which travels at night, Sandy, cannot really effectively use
Yeah.
Pine.
Right.
That's a valid point, Councilman, and we'll make sure to, ensure that the police department anticipates that at the time of the overnight detours.
and
I did
again,
also want to point out, Councilman Silva, Trans Options is also going to be involved in the education plan once the roundabout is constructed, and they've been helping us with the bilingual communication too.
Thank you.
Maybe we could do the Flagler Street intersection at the same time. All right. If there's nothing else for Mr. Seckler, I expect he will probably be back, or someone from his firm will be back as we get closer to the opening.
Yes.
So thank you very much, for Mr. Seckler, for coming on.
Thank
you.
you.
And
good night.
As the
Thank you.
complaints come in, we'll have them back.
I'll see you later.
that's all for the council. All the complaints go to the council.
Thanks,
Thank
Matt.
you.
All right. Now you get the mayor's report.
Ah, yes. Okay. Let me pull up my little spreadsheet. All right. First thing, we have upcoming events this Saturday, January 29th at 4 o'clock. We have the grand opening of the Blow Dry Bar at 89 D Morris Street. Councilman Mayer is confirmed to attend. Blow Morristown provides blowout hair and makeup services. No cuts, no color, just wash, blow, and go. February 1st is the start of the road improvement project for M Station, which we just went over, and the new traffic signal will on Spring and Spring Place will start. We have COVID testing information that's on our website. Our brand new health officer, Tina Maria, started a couple of weeks ago, and one of her first tasks was putting together a list of local COVID testing locations are available for the public. So that's posted at townofmorristown.org/COVID-19. So if anyone is looking for testing, vaccinations, or booster information, you can find it there. The mayor did lift his executive order for his mask mandate on January 20th as a result of the lowering transmission rate in our area. And then lastly, if you're interested in a law enforcement career, the New Jersey Civil Service Commission applications for law enforcement entry-level positions is now open. You can find the application at www.state.nj.us/CSC, that's CSC for Civil Service Commission. There you can find links to the 2022 law enforcement exam applications, a fact sheet, FAQs, veteran information, and administration guide. Your application must be in by February 28th, 2022. And I believe the actual exam is later on in the spring. So if you're interested in becoming a law enforcement officer for the town of Morristown, we encourage you to apply at the Civil Service website. And the information can also be found at the town's homepage at townofmorristown.org, on our Facebook page, and on Instagram. That's all I have for right now. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Julian. All right, moving on to council liaison reports.
Yes, I'd like to actually begin this time. So the Shade Tree Commission began their forestry training last week and will train for the next 8 Wednesdays so that we will better serve the forests attached to the parks. We will be scheduling 1 to 2 extra meetings to focus on the 2 grants we will be going out for this year. Shade Tree Commission is in compliance with New Jersey State, Tree City USA, and Growth Awards. Thank
You just got muted.
That's it.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you.
Did you hear what I said though, right?
Yes, you got, yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I'll go next. I met with the parking authority. Not much to report. They are looking into expanding their EV units in all the garages. However, they have to get power brought to the garages, and that is the holdup because JCP&L is it's not being able to be supported right now. And also, I know the MPA is working with the developers of M Station to make sure that they have room for some of their staging for this project, and that's in the discussion stage right now. So everybody's working together.
Okay, I'll go next. MHA, Morris Housing Authority, they had their monthly meeting last night, commissioners meeting. Again, as I reported on last meeting, on December 23rd, there was the finance closing on the senior building on regard of the RAT. That brings the MHA to a transition in which the MHA won't be managing the property of the seniors anymore. Now it will be a private company, Orbac Affordable Housing Solutions. They were supposed to take management on January 1st or from January 1st, but since there was some tension among some senior residents, they have decided to go on a transition period of 90 days. So that means that MHA will be working with Orbac for 90 days. This company has already met with the majority of the seniors, and it will continue doing that in order to give them peace that everything is going to be good. Everything is going to be, I would say, better, with hope and with optimism. The second thing is that as a result of that, there is a planning of renovations. They're working hard on the planning for the senior buildings. The relocation company has met also with vast majority of the residents, giving them advice and asking them questions and preparing them for the time when renovation comes. On the same, on 31 Early Street, right now they're going under some repairs and things that were neglected for decades, and some of those are water lines and pipes, and they have to do that. It's a big project, and they have had some incidents, but they're managing everything well, because otherwise, if they don't fix that, the financial part of the RAD could be hindered. But Keith Kinnard reported that they're doing a fantastic work there with the company that they are working for that. In a very good note, the MHA hired 2 young women professionals for social support. They will be working with senior activities, and also they will be working in the rec center of the Maynahan Village. And that part is very important for all the residents of the facilities. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Anyone else?
Yes. The I was about to say Morristown Parking Authority. Bob, you got me mixed up with that when I was the liaison. The Morristown Partnership held their reorg meeting on January 12th, in which they reappointed their executive committee. Bill Bronswager as president, Jeff Rawding as vice president, Kim Ryan as treasurer, and John Walsh as secretary. They noted their accomplishments from 2021, one being the success of the Christmas festival season. They're excited to be getting back to business, which means this will be a recovery year for them, and they'll be getting back to doing their community events, which are very essential to their cash flow and their day-to-day business operations. So it was nice. That was my first time being a liaison. So I was there via Zoom, and they had a very, very good reorg meeting.
Thank you, Toshiba. All right. I think that if that's it, then we'll move on to regular business.
Business. There are two ordinances for introduction this evening. Ordinance number O-2-2022, an ordinance of the town of Morristown and the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, establishing compensation for certain officers and employees of the town of Morristown.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number O-2-2022.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, on the introduction of ordinance O-2-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone, Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
thank you, Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbriak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance O-2-2022 has been properly introduced by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on February 8th. Ordinance number O-3-2022, ordinance revising Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 7-17, residential permit parking by amending subsection 7-17.6, scheduled streets of the code of the town of Morristown.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number O-3-2022.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions from council? On the introduction of ordinance O-3-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbriak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance 3-2022 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after public hearing on February 8th. There is one ordinance for public hearing and adoption this evening, and that's ordinance number O-1-2022, bond ordinance reappropriating $150,000 proceeds of obligations not needed for their original purpose in order to provide for preliminary expenses in connection with the potential acquisition of the town post office property in and by the town of Morristown in the county of Morris, New Jersey.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number O-1-2022.
I'll second.
Okay. This time I will open the floor for a public comment on ordinance O-1-2022 only.
Council President, I don't see any hands raised for public comment.
We will close that public comment period.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, on the adoption of ordinance O-1-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilwoman Umbriak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance is
Jill,
adopted.
can I ask one question on this one? Doesn't change my vote. But just a
Sure.
clarification. Jillian, just to clarify for the public, we're not borrowing more money. All we're doing is allocating monies that we've already borrowed, correct? Okay, because I've gotten asked that question by a few people, but it's not new money, it's money that we previously have borrowed.
Exactly.
Hey, thank you. There are 8 resolutions on the agenda for adoption. Are there any that members of council would like to pull for separate consideration?
Can we pull 39, 42, and 44?
39.
42 and 44.
Okay, with that, I would ask for a motion to approve resolution numbers 37, 38, 40, 41, and 43-2022.
Make a motion. Well, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbriak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution number R-39-2022, resolution authorizing preliminary studies and related expenses in advance of condemnation proceedings and authorizing Inglesino Webster, Scala and Taylor LLC to engage in good faith negotiations to acquire certain real property identified as block 5906, lots 6, 7, and 8 on the official tax map of the town of Morristown and located at 10 Washington Street, 6 Washington Street, and 2 Washington Street.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R39, 2022.
I'll second.
Councilman Anacone.
Go ahead. I believe the only reason why I pulled this one was I think we have John giving a brief explanation, Stefan, as to what and why,
Yes, or David.
Sure.
Or someone.
or David.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Anacone and Council President Armington. As the council is aware, these properties were declared in need of redevelopment on a condemnation basis back in February of 2020. First, I want to state what the resolution is not. The resolution is not an authorization to condemn the property. The resolution is simply a resolution pursuant to the statutes referenced therein to conduct studies in preparation for the possible condemnation of the property, as well as to conduct the statutorily required good faith negotiations as a precondition to any future condemnation action.
Any questions for John? Hopefully not, since we talked about this.
Right, so just so the public knows that we're open to discussing anything with with the owner of this property, and that we're not closing the door. This is just another step we're taking.
Yes. All right. Call the question, Margot.
Okay, on the adoption of resolution R-39-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Anacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes,
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbreak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution number R-42-2022, resolution authorizing award of contract for professional services to Topology New Jersey for on-call planning services.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R42, 2022.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilman?
Yes, Jillian, do we have in this contract, I didn't read the latest version, but I did read the prior version of the contract. Do we have backup planners in case of conflict? And is there a duty to disclose conflicts in this contract?
We don't have on contract a conflict planner, but if there should be a need, we certainly would engage a conflict planner in that situation. And yes, if there is a conflict, there's a duty to disclose for any professional that works for us, whether it be the planner, an attorney, or an engineer.
Thank you.
And if there's no further questions, call the question.
Okay, on the adoption of resolution R-42-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Anacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yeah,
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbreak,
Yes.
and Council President Armington.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Resolution R-44-2022, resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of agreement between the town of Morristown and Policemen's Benevolent Association Local 43.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R44, 2022.
I'll second.
Councilman Anacone?
Just a quick question for Jillian again, I'm sorry. It's an MOA, Jillian. Is this the end of the negotiation then with the MOA? There's
Yes.
not a contract that needs to be negotiated?
No, so the way the process works is once we conclude negotiation, a memorandum of agreement is signed that reflect the changes in a contractual agreement. And that is signed contingent upon approval by our respecting governing bodies. In this case, it's you. In the case of the PBA, it would be their membership vote, which they did vote in the affirmative prior to coming before you for consideration. Once the MOA is approved by resolution, then what's reflected in the MOA is reduced into a contract that's reflective of the MOA changes, and then that contract is signed. So the MOA reflects the agreement that's been reached between the town and the PBA.
And that's the end of this round of negotiations?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
All right. Call the question, Margot.
On the adoption of Resolution R-44-2022, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
yes,
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Councilman Umbriak,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, that concludes the regular business. I added this one item to new business just to on the establishment of the Cannabis Advisory Board, just to get an update from Jillian on how the process moves from where we took it at the end of the year, where the ordinance was adopted to the next steps. So either David or Jillian or.
I can address it briefly. So now that the ordinance is adopted, the next step is for the town to develop a request for proposals process consistent with the ordinance that will solicit proposals from potential licensees that then the Cannabis Advisory Board will review and then come up with recommendations. So we are in the process of developing that RFP process. Once that is determined, the request for proposals will be let. The proposals will be reviewed by the advisory board and the recommendation will be made to the governing body at that time.
Do we have any sort of general time frame for an RFP?
Not specific. I mean, we're working on it. We're looking to try to get out an RFP in the next couple of months. I know that there was an application period led by the state that I believe is due sometime late spring. So I think the intention is to solicit proposals in time for that deadline.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you
has
very much.
anybody inquired about?
Oh, yeah.
The application?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. There have been lots of inquiries. There are a lot of potential cannabis entrepreneurs that are seeking to do business in Morristown.
All right, any other, I'll open it up to anyone else for any news, points of interest, or anything else?
Is there a discussion about going back live or that's tabled?
So we haven't had that discussion. I would note that back when we made the decision to go live in December, that was after 3 weeks of having a less than 1 spread rate. I believe it's been 10 days now. So I'd rather not go live and then go back. So you know, after the next meeting, I'll have a discussion with administration and see if it's the right place to go. I'll also probably check in with Bob and the state health department.
Stefan, what I might suggest that we come back with at the next meeting is maybe the concept of it's not going away. COVID's going to be here and it's going to wane. It's going to get more intense. It's going to be a cycle. I think maybe what's more appropriate, and you're starting to see a lot of businesses doing this and some other organizations, we're doing it in my business, is basically you come up with standards as to looking at certain factors, such as the transmission rate, such as the hospitalization rate, such as the definition of the strain, and then you basically build some standards from that, and then so you're not constantly deciding and second guessing. And plus, what it does is it takes it from kind of somewhat of not an arbitrary but an observation type decision and makes it more kind of factual based, and because we're going to be talking about this maybe for the next year, 2 years.
I think the challenge we've had, or at least I've had, I know it's it's the same challenge with the administration, is that the level of data that we have at the county level is not.
I don't buy that, because I will tell you, I see all the information every day, and it's there. It's there. It's published by the state. It's there, and it's published by county. It's there every day. Okay. And what I also would suggest is that you have to keep the hybrid format for a while, for a long time. And I don't think the hybrid format may be something that doesn't go away.
All right, I'll discuss that with the administration. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Have a good night.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.